Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Cindy Brown, and let's queer up the USA view. An Ohio bill bans ejaculation without intent to conceive, but has an LGBTQ exception. Ohio State Representatives Anita Samani and Tristan Rader are doing their parts to combat abortion in the state. The Democratic representatives have recently proposed a bill called, quote, the Conception Begins at Erection Act, end quote. The bill would impose a $1,000 fine for a first offense for men who, quote, discharge semen or genetic material without intent to fertilize an embryo, end quote. $5,000 for a second offense and $10,000 for subsequent offenses. The bill is specifically aimed at straight men who have sex without protection and without intent to have a baby, and includes exemptions for men using birth control, donating sperm, or having sex with someone who does not produce ova. Representative Samani, who is also an OBGYN, told News 5 Cleveland, quote, you don't get pregnant on your own. If you're going to penalize someone for an unwanted pregnancy, why not penalize the person who is also responsible for the pregnancy? Just like abortion bills have penalized physicians or created felonies for physicians and patients, the intent of the bill is to show that we should not be policing anybody's reproductive right, end quote. Ohio voters voted on abortion, contraception, and fertility treatment rights in 2023 with a referendum known as Issue 1, which passed with a 57% vote in favor.
Fair is fair, right? If this legislator is so dedicated to regulating women's bodies and their access to contraceptives and abortion care, then let's start policing men in the same way. After all, it does take two to tango, right? Our bill would make it illegal to discharge semen or genetic material without the intent to fertilize an embryo.
So this bill highlights the vast inequalities about how we talk about men's bodies and how we talk about women's bodies. If you find this language to be absurd, then maybe you should find any bill attempting to restrict reproductive freedoms absurd as well.
You too can follow the progress of this bill.
Yeah, just look at the link in the description below.
I love it. I mean, this obviously it's a joke, but it's thought-provoking. You know, if you want to control a woman's body and a woman's ability to get pregnant or use birth control, why aren't you also policing the other half of the equation?
Yes.
It's about time. I am hopeful but not optimistic that this will change minds, but it really does show the absurdity of controlling people's personal rights to do with their own body what they want to do with their own body. But given that there are so many men out there who have impregnated women and walked away, I believe that in some, on some level, I think this is a good bill,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, it turns out that J.D. Vance isn't the craziest thing to come out of Ohio after all. It is really kooky. I just worried that they're going to be like, that the wrong people are going to misunderstand it and push it forward. Let's do this.
I think that would be great.
Yeah, I do too.
Because then if you get me pregnant by accident, well, now wait a minute. It says people who don't produce ova. Does that mean postmenopausal people like us?
That could.
Okay, so as long as you pick somebody over, say, 55 or a guy, you're okay.
Right.
But if you accidentally get someone pregnant and then you don't want to take responsibility for it, the woman would now have an avenue to say, well, do you want to pay child support or do you want to pay a fine for impregnating me?
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. My big question here is who reports him if not the woman that accidentally got pregnant? Are there going to be other ways that we find out about these crimes?
I think
Right. The guys aren't going to admit to it.
Right. The reality is this is not a bill that they intend
serious.
to pass.
It's not serious.
I know.
It's a bill to show the absurdity.
Yeah.
Well, I
At
hope
least
I hope
would
people in
mean.
other states do the
And,
same,
yeah.
though,
I
and
mean,
keep the conversation going.
The reality is that men don't get pregnant,
Yes.
and men, for the most part, are the ones making these laws.
Yep.
But maybe some people will go, that's a really good point.
Well,
Yeah.
let's hope that the people are smart enough to
Well,
go. Maybe.
right.
Yeah, and just having the conversation, I hope it comes up in other states just so they have the conversation because, in South Korea, they have something they call the 4Bs because their word that means non starts with a B. And they say, when they're having issues about women's rights in South Korea, large groups of women get together and say, let's do the 4Bs. No dating, no sex, no marriage, and we don't cook for our guys.
Wow,
That's great.
And they'll go, like a large portion of the female population will go for months when they need to as a political protest.
Was it Lysistrata, right? The Greek thing that it's the women were
Yes.
protesting?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go, protest.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There's no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.